guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm hyperfixing on so many things. I have a new show, new celebrity, new YouTuber, new drink, and that right now is a brown sugar oat milk shaken matcha latte. So today I am actually going to be doing a breakdown on all of the Rachel Lynn Solomon books that I have read. Now, Rachel Lynn Solomon is one of my all-time favorite authors, like no doubt in my mind she is one of my favorite authors. I've almost read her entire backlog. I think there's like 2 books I haven't read, and I believe they're both YA, her like oldest YA novels. I do plan to read them and I'll give my opinions on those, but I just really want to give my sort of guide and opinions on the books that I have read. So we are going to get on with the video. This is going to be a relatively short-ish video because I'm going to just give a super brief synopsis, because I think it's better to go into these books semi-blind and then my opinions on them. So I'm going to do this in like 2 parts, and that's going to be her adult romances and then her YA romances. I'm going to do YA romances last because spoiler alert, my favorite book is in there. So I'm going to talk about her adult romances first. Now, the one you've probably seen is definitely The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I got this after Today, Tonight, Tomorrow because I really liked her writing, so I wanted to pick another one of her books up, and this happened to be one of the only books that she released, and I did know this was relatively popular on Book Talk. Say what you want about Book Talk, I don't care. So this book was fairly popular on Book Talk, and basically this book is about 2 coworkers. It's an enemies to lovers, slight age gap. It's like very mild age gap romance. And they're enemies to lovers. They work at a like radio station, which I really like that concept. And it's kind of plummeting. She ends up coming up with an idea of like a sort of dating talk show kind of thing. And the storyline is the boss basically tells them that the only way this is going to work is if you 2 pretend to be exes and give relationship advice and talk about your relationship. So it's like a twist on fake dating, enemies to lovers, slight age gap. All in all, I really like this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5, not a 5 out of 5, but a strong 4 out of 5. I really like this. I definitely wish there was a little bit more of the radio show aspect, like the dialogue there and like the show itself. But I know that's not like the whole concept of it, but I wish they delved into that just a tiny bit more. And then the 3rd act was a little rushed in my opinion, but that's just me nitpicking. For me, this was a 4 out of 5, but I still highly recommend it. It is an adult romance for those who are looking for a little bit more mature readings, because I know some people don't like YA because they think it's like immature, oh they're teenagers, all that. The next book is actually one of her recent releases, and that is Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And if you watched my April reading wrap up, I actually read this in April and I talked about my opinions on this book. I also really enjoyed this book, not as much as The X Talk. I did end up really liking this book. This one is a friends to lovers, opposite of enemies to lovers, which she typically writes, but this one is a friends to lovers, again, workplace romance. And they actually are working together to get their bosses to get back together because their bosses were dating, ended up divorced, but they both work in the same place, and they're kind of just like ruining everything within the entire system of the workplace. So the both of them are like, obviously they still like each other, we're gonna try to see that they both still love one another. For those who don't know, all of Rachel Lynn Solomon's books have Jewish representation, and it is refreshing to see all her books of Jewish representation in it. In The X Talk, the love interest is Asian American, and then in here there's a plus size hero, and there's plus size rep, and also deals a lot with mental health and like depression because the main character has depression. I almost gave this a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 for me is like, I don't regret it, it just wasn't my favorite, but I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. And this is the opposite for The X Talk, but I was bored the first third, and then once I got to like this much or something of the book, I ended up like not wanting to put it down, and I really loved it. There's also single parent trope, for those who don't know. It's the dad. I recommend you read both of them. Also, another thing about Rachel Lynn Solomon, I absolutely love her covers. Love her. Another thing about Rachel Lynn Solomon is I absolutely love her covers on all her books. Like, I will constantly rave about them. They are so adorable. Look at these. These are so, you can't tell me they're not so cute. If you had to pick one, I would say pick up the X Talk. Personally, I liked it more, but I still think you should read both. Now we are going on to my favorite her YA novels. Again, oh my gosh, do you see how pretty that is? I'm sorry, but as I was saying, I just could not delay this video because I really wanted to make them. So we're gonna talk about her YA novels. I've read 3 of them, as you can see. I'm sorry, I can't get over it. Look how beautiful these all look together. We're gonna go from bottom to top, like my least favorite out of them to the top. I can immediately say is We Can't Keep Meeting Like This. This was not a hit for me, I will just immediately say. Out of all the books that people will write, you are bound to find at least one that you just don't like. And that just happened to be this book for me. And it was kind of sad because I was super excited for it, but it wasn't that it was terrible. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I just found it kind of mediocre. This is like a friends to enemies to lovers, but I wouldn't really classify them as enemies. I can't remember if she said this was an enemies to lovers or not, but I would say it was more like a friends to enemies to lovers situation. This story follows Quinn and Tarek. I just realized I haven't been saying any of the names. If names matter to you, in the X Talk it is Shay and Dominic, and in Weather Girl it's Ari and Russell. Quinn and Tarek, and basically this story is like both the parts of their family work and parts of the wedding, and they had a falling out, and she basically confessed her feelings to him over, I think it was like an email, and he just never responded to her. They end up meeting again. But the thing is, they're very different people. He's the big hopeless romantic and all these big gestures, like really cheesy gestures, and she's not like that at all. Again, Jewish representation, and then the hero in the story is Muslim. I will say Rachel Lynn Solomon is not, and the representation in this, I was seeing reviews and people who were Muslim didn't like the representation in here. I personally am not, so I would say look for Muslim reviewers if you really want to research about the book, if you are interested in it. Again, this was my least favorite. I felt like the chemistry between the characters were kind of lacking, and the spark that I love in Rachel and Solomon's books it wasn't there for this book, personally for me. The next book is actually her most recent release, and it actually came out today. Technically, the original release date was in early May, so this actually shipped out and came in early for me, and that is See You Yesterday by Rachel and Solomon. Oh my gosh. Okay, I finished this a few days ago. It's so good. Chef's kiss. I love this so much. This is my second favorite Rachel and Solomon book of all time. This one is definitely not your typical romance. It has magic to it, and I literally mean that. They're stuck in a time loop. But in this one, they're in college. So she said it was sort of on the borderline of like new adult, and this is her, obviously it's YA, so it's not spicy, but it like had more steamy scenes, I suppose. Riverdale's PG-13, okay. So this follows Barrett Bloom. Barrett, based on Barrett Wilbert Weed. I'm a theater kid, don't. So Barrett Bloom and Miles, I need to stop fangirling. So on her first day of college, Barrett goes and it goes awful. It's so bad. And then she falls asleep after getting locked out of her dorm by her awful roommate who happens to be an ex-best friend. And she wakes up back in her room and finds out that it's the same day. She later realizes that Miles is also stuck, and he's been stuck for like a couple months. So the two of them end up being the only ones who know each other and like have memory of one another, and both of them try to figure out how to leave, and they end up falling in love. I gave this a 5 out of 5. Needless to say, I give it a 5 out of 5. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I think everyone should pick it up. I think everybody needs to pick this book up. This book is so good. The quotes, Miles, I love Miles with my whole heart. This is also an enemies to lovers, but it's like they get off on the wrong foot type of enemies. It's not like, oh, they hate each other. They just like slightly despise one another. Please, please, please read this. I highly recommend. It's so good. And now, I've talked about this in my most popular video, surprisingly. It was like my YA recommendations, and that is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. The cover, as you can see, this came out before See You Yesterday. You can see they're similar. This is my all-time favorite book of all time. I was not able to pick up a book. I had the worst book hangover. Like, my chest would hurt. And oh my, Rowan Roth, Neil McNair. Oh, also, I keep forgetting because I get so excited, but here you have a plus size heroine, and the hero is Jewish and Japanese. Today, tonight, tomorrow, academic rivals to lovers, 24-hour romance, like overnight. I love time constraint romance. Boy falls first, stuff like that, everything. It's so good. It's so good. Neil McNair is a ginger. This follows Neil and Rowan, and the two of them have been academic rivals for so long, and she wants to win one last battle against him, and that is at their senior scavenger hunt. They end up teaming together, and then they're gonna like battle it out at the end, and that's what this entire storyline is. Pick this one up. It's so good. Oh my god. And I saw some people hating on it, and I was like, why would you hate on it? This is so good. I love it so. I'm so sad, but it's on my quote wall. Okay, it's on my quote wall, so I will insert that. So I have this theme that I'm creating that has just a bunch of quotes, and here is the quote I was talking about, where it says, "As much as I've idolized the happily ever after, I can't deny that today isn't an epilogue, it's a beginning." I really hope you enjoyed this video. I had a blast filming this video. I loved it so much. Oh my gosh. Rachel and Solomon, hands down my queen. I love her so much. Go follow her on social medias. I can't wait until she releases another book after she already released 2, and I loved them both. My top 3 would definitely be Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, See You Yesterday, and The X Talk. That is all I have for this video today. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment down below what other videos you want. I was thinking of doing this with Colleen Hoover because I've read a couple of her books, a good chunk of them. If you want that, let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye!